I'm very pleased to present Chuck Reeves.
You're doing good, Don. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, big hand, big hand. Knock it off, knock it off. No one is ever going to pay you what your product or service is worth. No one is ever going to pay you what your products or your services are worth. They'll pay you more than that, or they'll pay you less than that based on what they think it's worth, and we control their thinking. There are two ways to sell: value-added selling and commodity selling. Commodity selling is built on the premise that all things are equal, therefore I will take whatever I can get for my product or service. After all, accounting software is accounting software, so low price gets it. Value-added selling is built on the premise that I can differentiate my product or my service. Now listen closely. I can differentiate my product or my service in the customer's mind, not necessarily in reality, but in the customer's mind, to the point where they will give me whatever I am asking for my product or service. The only kind of selling that I teach is value-added selling. The reason is I don't believe in commodities. I don't think they exist. Every product, every service can be differentiated to the point where the customer will give us whatever we are asking for our product or service. What we're going to be talking about this afternoon is your ability to sell. Some of you are great salespeople. Some of the greatest salespeople in the whole software industry are in this room right now. And those of you with the largest egos will certainly agree with that. If you look at sales as a profession, then you realize it's an art, it's a science, it's a very difficult task. What is the easiest job in any organization? Sales. You act like you don't believe me? You don't have to believe me. Ask the folks in accounting. Ask the engineers, ask the developers. What's the easiest job around here? What are they going to tell you? Sales. What time does a salesperson come to work? Yeah, the crack of noon, right? What's the first order of business for a salesperson? Coffee. Then they go to lunch with a client. They come back from lunch. It's time for what? More coffee. Then they go play with a... See, you know these things. I don't have to tell you, right? How many of you would consider a 40-hour work week to be a vacation? Raise your hands. See, that's what sales is really all about. And until you've been in it, there is no way you could understand it. There's no way you could appreciate the complexities and the all-consumingness of being in sales. Every once in a while, my firm has to buy a new computer. And I consider myself the most knowledgeable person in the firm. I probably am not, but I consider myself knowledgeable. So I go to the computer store to make the purchase. So I'll go down to the computer store and I look around for the person that I think is the most intelligent computer salesperson. My criteria for selecting that individual is number of tattoos and body piercings. The more they've mutilated the body, the more they've probably taken care of the mind. And so I go over to this person and I ask them, which one of these computers do you think I should buy? And then they begin speaking a foreign language. They talk mega and giga. These things mean nothing to me. And RAM. I say, no son, don't want farm animal, want computer. I don't understand these terms. Are we talking over the heads of our customers? Are we talking down to our customers? We're going to talk about that a little bit this afternoon as well. And then finally, I get frustrated, and so I just go over and start looking at computers by myself. And eventually, I will look for someone in the store who looks like me. A businessman in his late 30s, someone that I can relate to. And I'll go over and I'll say, which one of these computers are you going to buy? I'm going to buy this one. Great, I'll take one of these. See, the word of mouth becomes one of the strongest selling propositions out there. Word of mouth. Your customers are going to talk about you. You can't stop that. What you can influence is what they have to say when they talk about you. 4 times a month, I meet with a different group of CEOs. It's a small, intimate group, generally less than 20. And we sit down and we talk about what's going on in their company, their industry, their market, what they're doing in sales, what they would like to do in sales. And they learn from me about sales because that's all I know, but I learn from them about where their heads are and where their minds are. There has never been a better time or better place for what you're representing in the marketplace. Walk into your customer and say, what goals have you set for this year and where do you stand against those goals? If you could have your company achieve anything, what would it be? Let me show you that I can help you do that. See, you've got the tools, you've got the capabilities. Do you appreciate that? You may be better than you think you are. And all the customer wants to know is, can you help me run my business better? That's it. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel and it's not a train coming in this direction? Is there something you can do to help me survive and maybe even thrive? And they will ask you for help in one of two directions. One is, can we continue doing the same amount of business with less people or with less other resources so that we can remain profitable? But the good ones are saying, how can I keep what I've got right now and do even more business? That's where you are. This is what you do for a living. You help companies become more productive, more effective. And I want to suggest to you that as an individual, you probably have something to offer them in the area of sales training, which is all I know, in the area of sales training in addition to everything else that you're bringing to the table to help them take their company to the next level. The current popular definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and somehow expecting a different outcome. That doesn't happen. If I want my customers to do things differently, then I must change my stimulus, and then they will change their response. If you make no changes in your behavior as a result of this conference, you wasted your time here. So decide you're going to do something different. I know that Stampede gets to be an old home week sometimes, and folks want to link up with people they haven't seen for a while, and you'll fall into that same pattern, but find the people you don't know and sit down with them. Because whenever two minds get together, a third mind is created. And networking with that new, fresh, unique mind is going to bring up some new ideas. My seatmate flying up here, everybody I meet is either a customer, potential customer, or they know someone who is. I have never met anyone that could not teach me something, with the exception of a couple of Georgia Tech grads. I have yet to meet the individual who could not teach me something. And so I want to pick the brains of these people. This guy is an insurance adjuster. What do I know about insurance? This is kind of boring stuff. But he began to talk, and he was telling me about what was happening in his industry and his market. And as he talked, I realized there's an opportunity there for folks like you and for folks like me. If we'll just put our ear to the ground, what we will find is the low-hanging fruit is more plentiful than it's ever been. The opportunities out there are more plentiful than they've ever been. We need to go out and address it, because if we don't, somebody else will. Let's talk about value-added selling. Chuckism number 6 says, in the history of recorded time, no customer has ever said, your price is too high, and meant it. In the history of recorded time, no customer has ever said, your price is too high, and meant it. What is the most common objection us salespeople hear? The price objection. Your price is too high. That is not what the customer is trying to say. Here's what they're trying to say. I don't perceive the cost as equal to the value. That's what they're trying to say. They don't know how to say that, so they say your price is too high. A rookie salesperson will hear that and immediately try to lower the cost by lowering the price. When we do that, we inadvertently send an erroneous message to the customer, and that is, cost and price are one and the same. They are not. There is no relationship between cost and price except for an inverse relationship. The item with the lowest price tag typically costs the most. The item with the lowest price tag typically costs the most. As far as I can tell, the lowest price new men's shirt on the market right now is on the $4 table at Walmart. Now, we know at the retail level that customers buy on price. Is that correct? So I'm assuming you gentlemen who are not wearing logo shirts paid $4 for the shirt that you're wearing. Is that correct? What's the answer? No, you paid more than $4 for that shirt. Is that correct? Why would you squander your money and spend more than $4 for a shirt? Now, what's the answer? Quality. Quality. How does quality manifest itself in a shirt? How many times can you wash the $4 shirt? None. The first time you wash it, something weird happens to it, right? How do you feel when you're wearing a $4 shirt? How does it fit? How do you look?